House Democrats released more photos from the Epstein estate. And thank God, not only did they implicate Trump, they implicate Clinton, too. It was actually a pretty wide scattershot. They got Bill Gates in there as well.
The House Oversight Committee are releasing brand new photos from the estate of the late convicted sex offender, Jeffrey Epstein. And they show powerful figures like President Trump, Trump advisor Steve Bannon, and former President Bill Clinton. None of those released images depict any sexual misconduct, nor are believed to depict underage girls. It was not immediately clear when or where they were taken, or by whom, for that matter. I want to go live right now to CNN anchor and chief White House correspondent Caitlin Collins, who's been working the story for us.
I knew Bannon was tied with Epstein, but I didn't know how close they were. Oh, no. We've known. Bannon and Epstein have had a close relationship. Bannon has tried to pull Epstein in to continue supporting Trump. Like, they've been together.
Caitlin, what are we learning from these new images?
Well, this is some reporting I've done with my colleague, Annie Grayer. And basically what we're getting and what we're seeing being released today are photos from the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee. It's from Jeffrey Epstein's estate, which has been turning over emails and other records of his from his life. This latest production is over 95,000 photos that he had on his computer, on his email server. And basically what they do, Wolf, is just reinforce.
I really like this one. I saw this one on Twitter. There are a bunch of photos of Epstein and Bannon together. Here's a framed picture of what looks like a passed out girl on a couch. I haven't scrutinized the photo too closely. That's definitely like the snap impression that I get of it, just here framed on Epstein's desk.
And shed new light on the extent of the many powerful people that were in Jeffrey Epstein's orbit. I mean, you can see this when you look through these pictures, and they're available to scroll through in our story on CNN.com right now. And there are people including the current president, President Trump, former President Bill Clinton, Steve Bannon, Bill Gates, Richard Branson. A lot of these people that we knew had been linked to Jeffrey Epstein in the past, Wolf. But basically, this is just showing new angles of those relationships. And they're incredibly personal.
When you line up for the fit pick. There's Epstein and Bannon. There's a lot of photos of them together. It honestly makes me think, like, I've never felt like Bannon was that big of a player, you know, but I guess he must have been, considering how close he was to Epstein.
Photos, and some of them and others, they're a bit silly. Some, it's kind of hard to even explain what you're looking at. We've published the ones that we've been able to online, though, and basically they just show all the high and powerful people in his orbit. Well, there's one where it's got Bill Clinton with Epstein. There's one that includes Steve Bannon, who, as you remember, was a huge advisor to President Trump from his 2016 campaign and also worked for him in the White House. And they're just really remarkable images showing what Jeffrey Epstein's life was like before he became ensnared in all of this trouble, and when he was eventually, of course, charged and indicted for sex trafficking young underage women. And I should note, Wolf, as you noted, none of the pictures that we're releasing today that we've gotten our hands on show any sexual misconduct. We don't believe any.
The Dropbox photos are linked here. Yeah, it is worth noting that we're only seeing the small snippet of photos that were immediately sort of scanned and processed and released and interpreted, because the drop was 95,000 new photos from the Epstein estate. In all likelihood, there are many interesting ones in there. It's just, it drops, you pull the first 5 you see. What are you going to do?
Any underage girls. It's really speaking more to Jeffrey Epstein's life and what that looked like. And lawyers for his estate basically told the committee that they had photos, they have videos that were taken at any property that was owned, rented, operated, or used by Jeffrey Epstein for about 30 years. So that just kind of tells you the span of what you're looking at here, as Jeffrey Epstein was surrounding himself with a lot of powerful people, which, of course, we now know also helped insulate him at times from the crimes he was committing.
Let's go live right now to our senior reporter, Annie Grayer, who is working the story for us. What
degenerate fucking parasites? Yeah, it's crazy, man. I can't, it's like the most insane, uncharitable, conspiratorial arguments about the nature of the ruling class are all correct. I mean, not about them being like lizards or aliens or reptiles or Jewish or whatever, but about them being demonic pedophiles, yes. And it's just day-to-day news, and nothing's going to be done about it at all. And what's more, the people who most aggressively believed all the Pizzagate stuff are now #1 fans of one of the main people implicated in all this. You can't forget that part of the story, you know? These conspiracy theorists were looking for evidence for decades of the top-level conspiracy, child sex trafficking, so on and so forth. Finally, it's all here. Everyone can see it. It's not a conspiracy anymore. It's just very open. It's out in the open, and they're pretending it's not there. They just want to defend Trump.
What are we learning, first of all, Annie, from these new images, and what are lawmakers saying about all of this?
Well, Wolf, there are 19 images released by the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee.
What causes people to be like this? I think that if you're an evil oligarch, or if you rule the world and you have your secret mansions and private islands, it just makes you a pedophile. Because the French aristocrats were like this. Presumably the Germans were like, this is probably the case all over the world, you know, which is the when you have infinite power and you're distinct from every other group of people and you're evil and you hurt people with every decision that you make, you delight in the idea that you can partake in these degenerate actions and no one can hold you accountable for it, you know? It's crazy how, like, reliably things gravitate towards that, you know? Yeah, rules don't apply to you, whatever. It's always the fucking men. Mao did this shit. Stalin did this shit. It's like, it's every time, like all over the world, you know?
And they're still combing through over 95,000. But these photos really give us an inside look into the most powerful men in the world that Jeffrey Epstein was connected with. And 3 of those photos include President Donald Trump. One of them is with the president and 6 women whose faces are blurred out. There's another photo of the president and 1 woman whose face is blurred out, and a third photo of the president, Epstein, and a woman whose face is not blurred. Then there is a photo of what appears to be a box of novelty condoms with President Trump's face on it, with a price tag of $4.50, with the caption saying, "I'm huge." And Trump is not the only one who is featured in these photos. There's also images of Alan Dershowitz, Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, Woody Allen. These are some of the most powerful men in the world that have been known to be connected to Epstein previously, but these photos just provide more context on their relationship. There's no evidence of sexual misconduct or sexual activity in these photos, and it doesn't appear that any of the women in these photos are underage, but they come from
I don't know if you know that. Their faces are blacked out, and it's like grainy photos from the 80s. How could you possibly...
Epstein's Gmail account. It's unclear who took these photos or what the context was around them, but it's part of the Oversight Committee's broader investigation into Epstein, where they've received thousands of documents. Listen to the top Democrat on the Oversight Committee who spoke with reporters this morning upon these new photos release.
It will take days and weeks to ensure that we got those photos and that a redaction is done in the appropriate way. Let me just also say that clearly we have put out, I think maybe 15 to 20 of those photos this morning. Democrats have. We will continue.
Yeah, they're combing through them. They're censoring faces and stuff like that. The total drop has that many photos, but it's getting like dripped out publicly, you know? Why did Dems implicate Clinton and all those billionaires? Personally, I think it's fantastic that the Democratic House Oversight Committee was willing to not only release these photos, but release one with Bill Clinton featured in its center prominently. Because we know one of the big reasons they've been hesitant to jump on the Epstein stuff is because they don't want to implicate Bill Clinton, because he's one of the, you know, the pillars of the party, or at least he was. So if they're willing to do away with that, they've been pretty aggressive with the Epstein stuff. I want them to keep that up. It's just been a quiet couple of weeks.
To put out more photos in the days and weeks ahead, but I just caution folks that the redaction process and ensuring that we are protecting the survivors and the women who were abused by Epstein are protected.
Now, Republicans on the panel who are also conducting this investigation are accusing Democrats of cherry-picking photos here because, again, these are only 19 photos released over the 95,000 that the committee will have access to and start combing through. But all of this comes as we are waiting for the Department of Justice to release all of the files it has on the Epstein case in its possession that is required by law after passing in Congress last month.
Clearly, there's been an enormous amount of information that have been provided to Congress and the Justice Department, for that matter, from the Epstein estate. Do we anticipate there's a lot more still to come?
Well, that is a moving target, Wolf, but this investigation is ongoing, and the Epstein estate has been extremely cooperative with the committee and provided some of the biggest bombshell pieces of information that we've received so far, including that birthday book from over the summer where President Trump appeared to have written a birthday note to Epstein. So there's a lot of treasure trove of information in there, and we'll wait to see if any more comes out.
Republican Congressman Thomas Massie of Kentucky is speaking about the decision to release that and to release more documents. He's in favor of releasing more of the Epstein files. Listen to this.
But we'll see. Have you seen some of these photos that Democrats on the House Oversight Committee put out this morning from the Epstein estate?
I have not.
You know what's interesting, by the way? I never ever see anybody ask Steve Bannon about this. I'm sure some people have, but, you know, he does have his media appearances from time to time. There are so many people who should be getting asked about this. I don't know why, you know, Bill Gates, all these fucking people. But they, I don't know. It all got like leaned in so hard on Trump specifically, and now for the most part it seems like nobody's heart is even in it. Honestly, it feels to me like the Democratic Party, you know, has been pretty fucking quiet since the elections last month. I can't actually think of anything the party's done, notably done, since the elections in November, because they just exhausted all their energy.
Generally, the DOJ is
on. Oh yeah, they gave up on the shutdown.
Clock. They have less or just about a week to comply with your law and release the files. Do you have faith that the Department of Justice will do that and comply with the law?
I've been encouraged. They went back to the three judges and asked them to release grand jury material in light of the Epstein Files Transparency Act, and all three judges have reversed their prior stance, but for a good reason. They cite the Epstein Files Transparency Act. So you've got three grand juries that are going to release all their materials, redacted with the victims' names, to the DOJ. So it's a good sign that the DOJ went back and asked for that grand jury material.
If DOJ doesn't release the files it has by next Friday, is there anything Congress can do to compel that to happen?
Well, I mean, it's a crime if they don't. It's not.
That's true. Once again, CNN sane washing. If the DOJ decides not to release the files, oh, you mean violates the law? You mean ignores something specifically outlined in a bill that passed through the House, the Senate, and then was signed by the President of the United States of America? That's the thing we're just asking nonchalantly. What if they do that? I don't know. What if they do that?
Not like they're in contempt of Congress because they didn't respond to a subpoena. This is a new law with, you know, criminal implications if they don't follow it. But I was encouraged, again, by the fact that they went back to these three judges and got the judges to release the grand jury material to the DOJ.
Thank you,
Is that grand jury material enough, do you think,
No.
to comply with the law?
No, the grand jury material is just a small fraction of what the DOJ...
Well, we'll see what the DOJ ends up releasing and how censored it is.